The central issue for social development during infancy is the formation of the intense emotional relationship between mother and child, identified as attachment. This bond is crucial and deeply impactful. Both the affective system and infant temperament play a significant role in this attachment process. Phase 1: Indiscriminate social responsiveness. In the earliest weeks of life, babies don't yet focus their attention exclusively on their parents. They often respond positively to anyone who interacts with them. However, even at this stage, their behavior are crucial for developing an attachment relationship with their caregivers. Infants are born with a variety of built-in responses designed to draw their parents near, such as crying, and to keep them close, like smiling. Although babies in this phase may not resolve their sociability solely for their caregivers, they can recognize their mothers in several ways. Newborns prefer to look at the mother rather than a stranger within just a few days of birth. They also recognize and prefer the sound of their mother's voice, a preference that can even be observed in full-term fetuses. Caregivers, too, quickly learn to recognize their babies. Within a day or two after giving birth, mothers can identify their own children solely by smell or by touching a hand or a cheek. While the baby displays attachment only after several months, the mother's emotional bond to the baby develops very quickly. While early contact may be important for some mothers under certain circumstances, it is not necessary for a strong maternal bond. Mothers and babies separated during the first day after birth due to illness are just as likely to develop strong attachment relationships as those who are not separated. Phase 2: Discriminate social responsiveness. During this second stage, infants start to show a greater interest in their caregivers and other familiar people, directing their social responses more specifically towards them. While strangers are still accepted, they now take a secondary role. Through this period, the infant and caregiver develop interactional patterns that allow them to communicate effectively, establishing a unique relationship. The child forms a cognitive representation or internal working model of the caregiver based on their perceived reliability and trustworthiness. When feeling anxious or uncertain, the baby looks to the caregiver for cues on how to feel. This is a social referencing process. The caregiver, in turn, uses this communication system to guide and influence the child. Phase 3: Focused attachment. This period is marked by significant emotional and physical developments. Emotionally, fear emerges as a dominant emotion. Babies start to recognize unfamiliar things and often react negatively, showing fear of strangers and separation protest. This form of distress usually disappears once the baby is back with the caregiver. Physically, around 6 to 8 months, most babies begin to crawl, giving them control over their location. This mobility is crucial for attachment, as babies can now move towards their caregivers instead of just crying for them. The attachment process becomes evident when infants use their caregivers as a secure base. They explore their environment when feeling secure, but return to their caregivers for comfort when faced with unfamiliar situations. Phase 4: Goal-corrected partnerships. As children enter the preschool years, They become better at managing their own reactions and responses, reducing their need to stay close to their attachment figures. Their growing cognitive abilities help them understand that their caregivers have their own goals and motivations. This leads to more reciprocal relationship where children can negotiate plans and activities with their caregivers, forming a true partnership. Through these interactions, children develop the capacity for complex relationships, marking the beginning of mature attachment behavior. As they move into adolescence, they rely less on their parents for emotional security, turning instead to peers, romantic partners, and other intimate relationships. The strange situation procedure. Mary Ainsworth's strange situation is a laboratory procedure designed to access the strength of the attachment relationship by observing an infant's reaction to a series of structured episodes involving their mothers and a stranger. These methods involve studying the child as they interact with their mother or father and an adult stranger in an unfamiliar setting. The unfamiliar environment ensures that the situation will be at least mildly stressful for the child and linked in secure-based attachment behavior towards a caregiver. Typically conducted when the infant is between 12 and 20 months old, this procedure focuses on the baby's reaction during separations from and reunion with the caregiver. These moments are particularly telling of the attachment relationship. The highly structured nature of the strange situation allows many researchers to use it constantly. However, it does have its limitations, such as providing only brief behavior samples and restricting maternal behavior. Mary Ainsworth identified three primary patterns of attachment, each reflecting different ways infants respond to their caregivers. Securely attached infants explore their environment freely, showing curiosity and confidence. When separated from their caregivers, they become distressed but are quickly comforted and enthusiastic upon reunion. For example, a securely attached child might play happily with toys in a new room, but when their mother leaves, they cry and look for her. Upon her return, they run to her, hug her tightly, and then return to playing. Insecure avoidant infants show little distress when separated from the caregiver and tend to avoid them upon reunion. For instance, an insecure avoidant child might seem indifferent when their father leaves the room and show little reaction when he returns, continuing to play without seeking comfort. Anxious, resistant, or ambivalent infants are distressed through the procedure, showing both relief and anger upon reunion with the caregiver. An example of this would be an anxious, resistant child who clings to their mother before she leaves, cries intensely when she is gone, and upon her reunion might run to her but also push her away or hit her, showing mixed feelings of wanting comfort but also being upset. Mary Main later identified a fourth attachment pattern: insecure, disorganized, or disoriented infants display unpredictable distress responses through the procedure. This pattern is often associated with frightening or withdrawing behaviors from the caregivers and tends to persist over time. For example, an insecure, disorganized child might exhibit confusion or fear when their caregiver leaves and returns, sometimes freezing or showing contradictory behaviors like approaching the caregiver but then suddenly backing away. The attachment cue set is an alternative method for assessing attachment. In this approach, individuals who have observed the child over time use the cue sort method to categorize mother-child interaction and attachment. For the attachment cue set, there are 90 cards to be sorted into 9 groups, ranging from the least to most representative of the child. When the cards have all been sorted, the researcher compares the observer's profile of the child with a profile of a security attached child prepared by experts in the field. The higher the correlation with the expert description, the more securely attached the child is assumed to be. Studies have shown that the attachment cue set is highly correlated with the strange situation method, indicating its reliability. Attachment patterns vary by culture and subculture. Researchers have found notable cross-cultural contrasts. For example, in Germany, where the culture is similar to North America, fewer infant caregiver pairs display secure attachment and more are classified as insecure avoidant. This difference is not due to less maternal sensitivity, but rather to German mothers' emphasis on fostering independence in their children, which results in infants appearing less interested in their mothers during reunion. In contrast, studies of Japanese children have found a higher percentage of insecure resistant attachments. In Japanese cultures, mothers rarely leave their babies with others, making the strange situation procedure more stressful for the infants. These findings highlight that cultural differences do exist in attachment patterns influenced by varying patterning practices and cultural norms. Parental responsiveness. Many theories believe that the quality of attachment is greatly influenced by how responsive parents are to their babies. When parents consistently and warmly respond to their infant's needs and beats for attention, infants are likely to develop confidence in their parents as sources of comfort and protection, leading to secure attachment relationships. These parents are more sensitive to their infant's needs, able to read their mental states and adjust their behavior accordingly. In contrast, infants who experience inconsistent, indifferent, or rejective care are less likely to develop confidence in their parents, resulting in less secure attachment relationships. In face-to-face interaction, securely attached infants have caregivers who synchronize their actions with those of the baby, enhancing interaction synchrony and turn-taking, which lengthens their time together. Overall levels of acceptance, rejection, and sensitivity by mothers across various activities predict the attachment classification their babies will exhibit in the strange situation. Attachment across generation. Individuals form a working model of close relationships as young children, a prototype that endures over time and affects various close relationships in the future, both with romantic partner and with their own children. One approach to studying this phenomena is the adult attachment interview, where mothers describe their childhood attachment relationships. Data collected, then used to classify mothers into one of 4 adult attachment styles. Autonomous parents present an objective and balanced picture of their childhood, noting both positive and negative experiences. Dismissing parents claim to have difficulty recalling their childhood and appear to assign little significance to them. Preoccupied parents tend to dwell on their early experiences, often describing them in a confused and highly emotional manner. Unresolved parents have experienced attachment-related trauma that they have not yet resolved, such as the loss or abuse from a parent. Several studies have shown that adult attachment classification are a reasonably good predictor of the attachment partner the mother formed with their own babies. Impressively, they can predict both forward and backward. Mothers' interviews during pregnancy predict their later attachment to their infants, and interviews with their children at age 6 correlate positively with their attachment when the children were only 12 months old. Temperament and attachment. An infant's temperament may interfere with assessing the attachment classification. For example, some researchers believe that infants who are fearful and inhibited often appear as insecure resistant in the strange situation procedure. This is not necessary due to their actual relationship with the caregiver, but because their overreaction to the unfamiliar situation gives the appearance of insecure attachment. The second and more important role of temperament is its direct effect on the type of attachment relationship a child develops with a caregiver. This idea relates to the goodness of fit concept. For instance, babies with irritable or difficult temperamental styles might be challenging to respond to promptly and sensitively. Additionally, a baby's temperament may influence how they perceive and react to their parents' caregiving. The same type of caregiving could be received different by different infants. Either situation could result in a child being less likely to develop a secure attachment with the caregiver. Consequences of attachment. Why does attachment matter? Simply put, secure attachment is linked to numerous positive cognitive and social characteristics. Through it's important to consider contextual factors. Securely attached infants, unlike those in other attachment categories, tend to grow up as better problem solvers, more curious, and more exploratory. They are more attentive in school and often earn higher grades. Additionally, security attached infants are more socially competent and less likely to exhibit emotional problems. Generally, they are more skilled at emotional self-regulation and better at assessing the intent of others. However, these differences do not preclude positive outcomes for children in other attachment classifications, as other environmental factors also play a significant role.